soft skills. The need to use those soft skills and push our teams and our environments into a better place. Soft skills, not just being the X's and the O's, but the relationships and the community that you are building will turn your soccer season and the experience of the families and the players that you work with into one of the best that there can be. So if you're familiar with the 6 tasks of a coach, talk about these a lot. We have the 6 tasks that are coaching games, coaching training sessions, leading yourself and leading the players, and the idea of unconditional attention for each individual player. But then there are 2 more that we'll talk about a little bit more in depth today, which is leading the team, and how do you turn that group of players, individuals, into a team? And then how do you manage the performance environment? The performance environment being the parents, being everything around the game day, the interactions, the guidance, everything that happens around your team is what we would call the performance environment. So let's start with leading the player. How do you give unconditional attention to each and every player that you work with? That's a tough one. When I run grassroots education, I give my magic recipe, if you like, 2 points of contact with every single player in every training session, which should seem fairly easy. The first one is always coaching. Coach an individual. Can you give an individual some sort of technical feedback, some sort of tactical feedback, something relevant to the way they are playing, to something relative to their game? That was really good. Could you do this a little bit differently? Oh, can you tell me why you did that? I think it's really interesting, but I'd like to see something different. Or why did you do that? Because I want to understand what you were thinking in that moment. That's the first part. But the second part is, hey, Jojo, how you doing today? You went on vacation last week, right? Where did you go? That's pretty cool. Did you have a good time? Amazing. And that kid will build a relationship with you that encourages them to share with you what is going on in their life. You get a little bit more about them. You understand who they are. You understand where they're coming from. You understand a little bit more about their home life, their school life, their friend life, things that they like, things they don't like, just from asking them about how was that vacation. Oh, I always see your mom walking the dog around the field. What's your dog's name? And now I'm building relationship time and time again. That's difficult if everybody arrives at the same time, but if you can carve out moments during water breaks, before and after the training session, a lot of this will be supported by your organization and by having your group set and your training session set so that it flows and it makes sense. You will create moments of time within that hour to an hour and a half of training where you can connect with every single player on something personal. And then, of course, through the training session, now you're able to start working with them individually also. And then by the end of it, you have 10 players on a young team. Now suddenly you've had 20 conversations with 10 players around something specific to them and around something specific to their soccer experience. So there's my recipe, if you like, for success with my individual players. And importantly, you can ask questions in there that help you understand who their families are too, if you're pretty clever about it. What's your mum's name? Oh, that's right. I knew that. What's your dad's name? Oh, that's right. And you have a brother or a sister. And now I understand a little bit more of the dynamic of the family. And it's much easier to say, instead of saying, hey, mom, it's easier to use that mom's first name if you don't know it, if you don't use an app or whatever reason. There's 1,000 things that goes on for a coach. But now I remember this player. I remember who their parents are. And I can just have that really kind of nice, informal, but meaningful passing comment with them. So that's our individual focus, unconditional individual attention for every player that you work with. It's difficult, it's a lot, but it's so worth it. Then we'll skip into managing the performance environment. What information do you give to the families of your players? Do you start with a preseason meeting? That's pretty standard now. Get all the parents together. Here's what we're doing. Here's our calendar. We'll do a tournament at this time. We'll play state cup. We'll have games here and there, and we'll be training here for the most part. Very kind of generic information. But then do you use that time to set standards or set expectations or ask of the parents' expectations? You ask any soccer coach on any coaching course, and the number one issue that they have with coaching are the parents. Yet parents care about their kids. I now know this because I have my own children, and anything I put my kids in, I want the best for them in that environment. Whether they win or they lose or they succeed or they fail, doesn't matter. I want them to have a really, really positive experience. My daughter goes to a school. In that school, they do all sorts of activities. She has all sorts of friends. That school, and I hope they don't listen to this, could call me tomorrow and say, oh, by the way, our tuition is increasing by $200. And then I'll have to make a decision. It'd be easy to pull her out of that environment if she didn't have any connection, if she didn't have anything going on with other friends or other events within that. But now if they said that to me and my daughter is doing all of these activities and she has all of these friends and she has this amazing connection with the teachers, I'm inclined to keep paying and increase that pay for them so that she can remain in the environment that she has a really positive time in. Now look at your team. Does your team offer all of those extracurricular activities? I'm not talking about taking them out and going to other activities and creating a basketball team out of your soccer team or anything like that. But do you have lunch together after a late morning game on a Saturday when the weather is beautiful? If practice is cancelled, do you do something else? Extreme heat in Northern California, rain, the grass fields closed immediately. Instead of just saying, hey, everyone, sorry, practice is cancelled, how do you get them together? Do you take them out and use a blacktop and go and play futsal? Do you do other things like that will then continue to build this community? And then the information that you give to parents. Try and implement a standard within the Vikings where we say, every Monday, or at least once a week, you need to connect with the families on your team. We use an app called Sprocket, Team Snap on steroids, I like to say is what it is. And we will say, here is the reflection on the weekend. Not about wins and losses, goals we scored, blaming the referee, anything like that. But our goals for the game this weekend were A, B, and C. We achieved them, we didn't achieve them, and I try to be as objective as possible. And then here is what this week looks like with training relative to the goals we just worked on, relative to the goals for the coming weekend. And we try and be as objective as possible to direct the families to consider and to think about the same thing that we are thinking about, to focus on the same things that we are focusing on. And if you don't do that, it's a disaster. And I'll give you a little bit of context here. We do a club survey every fall season, so ours just wrapped up. And it's really hard to read comments where families say, the coach just played games. All they did in their training was play games. Now, we have an amazing mentorship program, and I also observe trainings and games, and I see that they don't just play games, but to a parent who has not been informed, they look at it and they say, they're just playing games. They don't see the coach or understand how the coach is connecting with the players on an individual level, coaching them in the flow versus stop, stand still, pass around the cones, run around, doing all of these kind of really structured parts of a training session that look like it's organized, but our methodology is about games and teaching games for understanding. So from my perspective as the executive director, I have to do a better job of explaining why we do that. But then if a coach is saying, hey, everyone, this week at practice, you'll see a lot of 4v4 4-goal games. You'll see a lot of 3v2 transition games, whatever it is. And here is why. And this is why this communication is so valuable. It's so objective to say, this is what we're working on. You are the paid professional coach. You are the paid leader. So therefore, it is your job to tell them that you not only know what you are doing, but why you are doing it and why they should understand why that is the best thing for their player. Because our website has all sorts of really beautiful things on it, cool information. It explains the methodology, the games-based approach, using small-sided games. It's what the players like. It's good for the players. It gives them, in the 2 to 3 hours of training a week that we have, it gives them the best opportunity to connect the training to the game. We know that there is significant value for the players. However, if a parent or anyone is left to make up their own decisions or their own opinions, That comes from their own background, and we don't know what their own background is. Maybe they played soccer growing up and they were taught to run around cones and run laps, and that was what made them a really good soccer player, or so they believe. If they've never played before and they just see the kids playing games, well, then they may think, well, I could just coach them and I could just have them do that. Or, as is the case in San Francisco, we train on the field right next to another club. It's the equitable access to the fields that they run in San Francisco, where we go into a lottery and you get a quarter of a field for a training session. Well, on the field right next to us is a rival club, and they may be doing technical stuff and dribbling around cones, and it looks really organized, and all the players look like they can play soccer because they've all got a ball and they're all moving it really sharp. We know that doesn't necessarily translate, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but if an uninformed parent is watching and saying, I like the look of that one better than I like the look of what my kid is actually doing right now, well, now we may lose players. And the number one concern my coaches say is, when we lose players, we have to rebuild relationships and so on. But if we give this information, we have a really good chance of maintaining those relationships, of maintaining those players, and in our opinion, keeping them in the best place possible. So when you manage the performance environment, you use technology, you connect with your families, and you give them their opinion. It kind of sounds funky, right? Give them their opinion. But you help them understand why you are doing what you are doing and how they can support you on that. That's a 10-minute message on a Monday. On a Friday, hey, just a reminder, tomorrow when we get to the field, arrive early, wear red, wear this, bring that. We'll do pizza afterwards. We'll have a potluck lunch, or we'll go to, I heard a really good one yesterday, we'll go to 7-Eleven and everyone's going to buy a Slurpee. There's a 7-Eleven a mile away from the field. We're going to go and do this. But on that Friday, that email also says, here are the goals that we are trying to achieve. Of course we want to win. Of course we're going to play to win. However, we are going to go out there and we're going to work on what we've been working on in practice to connect the dots. Now, as a parent, they're going to have a little bit more of an objective opinion of saying, well, coach said they were going to work on X, and I saw it, but we didn't quite do it. And then your feedback on Monday says, hey, I saw it, but we didn't quite do it, and here's what we're going to do about it. We're connecting the dots, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So leading the team, how do you lead those individual players that you're building relationships with? How do you lead those players into a team environment? Talk about team events. How many team events? Do you do pizza parties? Do you get to know the players personally? Do you get to create a space for them to run around and go crazy and play fight and run up and down sand dunes, or run on the beach, or climb on the climbing frame and swing and do all of these cool things? Or do you allow older players to get together and play on their phones together? Because we know that's the reality. They play games together. Do they talk about whatever's going on? Do they have these weird quirks that teenage boys have? There are 1,000 things that we can create when we bring our players together. But we can also guide them as a group. Here is what our objective is for our teams. What do you guys think? Why are you playing? Are you playing because you love it and you've played together for 5 years and this is really, really important to you as part of what you love to do? Or is there a little bit more context to it that most of you are aiming to go play in high school or going to play in the next level, go to college? Now I understand why you are playing. I can begin to tailor my expectations, my delivery, my communication, my standards for your play. You're all here for fun, you're older girls, and then we know if you quit, you are not coming back. So I'm going to change the style of my coaching so that it meets your expectations. I'm going to stretch you a little bit because that's my nature, and it's not going to be an easy ride per se unless you're just out here to have a good time, and we allow 15 minutes of socializing before we actually start the balls rolling, because that's really important to you and your community and your mental health. Or if you're teenage boys and you're coming out and you're just ready to rumble because you've been in school all day and soccer is what you love, then I'm going to match that too, and we're going to play straight away. So when I get my players together, I understand who they are and how they fit together as a team. And then we have these team goals. Too often, and I just see this through our feedback right now, we have a division amongst our teams, and where we have some players who just show up and they don't care, and that's okay, but it's not okay if we're surrounded by players who are driven and are trying really hard and show up early and are practicing on their own, and it's not okay for either one to be on the same team because it doesn't match. We have to do a better job of connecting those dots and building environments for the players who are single, like-minded, to get the best out of their season together. Again, super competitive, high level, want to go to college. There's a place for you. Just like there is a place for you if you feel like you just want to have a good time and stay with your friends, and maybe you got school friends, cousins, brothers, whatever it is on the same team with you. That's also okay. But I need to understand that as the coach. And then when we're driving 3 hours to a game and my players don't care and they're giving up, I need to understand why that is and what I'm going to do about it. Because that's no fun for anyone. And that's a really negative spiral for the entire club and the families to experience. So the soft skills, connect with every single player, get to know them as a person as well as a soccer player, because we know that reality says none of your players are going to go pro. Maybe one player out of every player you've ever coached gets close. And that's just the cold hard facts about it. Then the performance environment, we're bringing parents in, we're giving them information, we're helping them understand, we're giving them an opinion so that they can become a supporter of what you're doing and not a detractor, and not looking at other clubs and not starting to farm their kid out to someone else and leave your space. And then create the team out of it. Training's cancelled, go to the beach and play. Go to the blacktop and play. Do a team Zoom and watch 20 minutes of a game and talk about it. After a game, go get 7-Eleven, get a pizza party, ask the parents of your team to help you coordinate this. And the last one on the team, and the performance environment, when I bring my teams together, I give the challenge and the requirement that every single family coordinates one event in the entire year. 12 players, 18 players, 18 events, whatever. That is, hey everyone, I'm going to bring popsicles after the game. That's my event done. Hey everyone, we're going to go to lunch after the game at this place. That's me saying that's what we're doing. And if you want to come, great. Number one pushback I receive is, well, not everyone goes. That's okay. The 2 families or 3 families that go with the coach, great. Take a picture. Look how much fun we had. Tell it to everyone. Sorry we missed you. Hopefully you'll make the next one. Guess what? Maybe 4 come next time, or 5 come next time, or everyone's just really busy and they take off. But we can say to them, it's really important that you come and join us. Everyone's having a great time. And then they also begin to see what's going on when the families are getting together and the cohesion's developing. And all that takes is go and stand in the 7-Eleven parking lot for 20 minutes after a game and drink a Slurpee. And I think if we do that, you will see a significant improvement in your team community. Your soft skills of connecting with people and building relationships and being able to create teams out of players and families to become supporters instead of detractors, your coaching becomes a lot easier and a lot more successful.